Hey Shackers, it's Asif, the man with the briefcase here over at Shacknews, and I'm with Tommy Palm from Resolution Games. Resolution Games, and you guys are famous for your VR fishing game, correct?
So earlier this year we released a game called Bait, which is a fishing adventure type of game for Samsung Gear VR.
And you guys had some investments from very large companies like Google Ventures, I hear.
Yes, that's correct. We raised around from a consortium of VCs. GV is one of them, and Creandum is another.
And so you had the success with your first VR title on Gear VR. How many units did you sell?
We had over 700,000 downloads of the game, so we were super happy to see that there's so many people interested in downloading.
I'm excited to hear that there's that many Gear VRs out there on the market.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really great device. Low price point, very easy to get into.
Do you think Samsung bundling the Gear VR with the phone helped you with the addressable market?
Yeah, definitely made it accessible to a lot more people. We've seen when we go out and show the games to audience that there is a lot of interest in VR and people love trying it out and getting immersed inside the game world.
And I think fishing games are very specifically interesting because people who like fishing games love fishing games. It's not something that you're like, oh, it's okay, and then you pick it up, you download it, you play it a couple times. Are you seeing users coming back to play the game a lot?
Yeah, we have a limited amount of content in terms of after a few hours you kind of exhausted the adventure part of the game. We added a new lake recently, so there is a little bit more now, but yeah, we see quite big numbers going through the entire game, so that's great. And I think there is people who are interested in fishing, of course, who really kind of connects with that as being kids and having a great time fishing. But we've tried to do this as just using like the fishing metaphor and analogy to create an adventure game that anyone can enjoy.
And so you guys are clearly working on other stuff right now. You don't have anything to announce today?
Well, we have said that we are working on a game called Wonderglade, which is an adventure theme park type of game with many mini games in it.
Cool. So it's kind of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but on mobile and in VR?
Yeah, except no roller coaster because of the problems with locomotion and motion sickness. So.
Oh, good point. So yeah, let's talk about user interface in VR. With Gear, you have Bluetooth controllers. How have you found it challenging to make a gameplay that's compelling for VR that doesn't break immersion?
Well, I think all of us wants to see hands in VR. That would be the most intuitive thing that you could use as a player. But when it came to Bait, we chose to make it like a one-button game. So you can, even though you don't have a gamepad with you, you can play it semi-comfortable with just your built-in button. But yeah, we see if you have the gamepad, you can also play it with that, of course, and it's much more comfortable to do that. So I'm hoping we'll see kind of a fast transition over to more natural inputs. Like the Oculus Touch is a great example of, but that's not available for mobile phones yet.
Yeah, I feel like mobile is being left out when it comes to all these cool human interface devices. There are, and I don't know if you saw yesterday, Google announced their mobile controller for Daydream. But for the most part, it seems like here's a gamepad, or on the Samsung you can tap the side. The other thing that I think game developers are using is the headset itself as an input device. So by looking at something or interacting with something by where your gaze is. Can you talk about how putting a heads-up display on like a traditional 2D screen, it's easy to have here's your status, here's your health. How did you guys look at how to display information to the user in a Gear VR while not breaking immersion, while still making it like fun?
Well, in the fishing game Bait, the character that you are playing actually have AR interface, so that's how they get the information through the world.
So this is a futuristic fisherman.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a meta thing there. But yeah, preferably you want to have interface in the game world instead. We have a tackle box next to you that you can use to go in and open your settings menu and things like this, but it's still a menu. We spent a lot of time on experimenting with that. I think it's a very interesting area. Like, how are we going to do these type of typical interfaces? I mean, for the web and regular desktop, those are pretty clearly defined, but still in VR and AR, this is a new interesting area.
You brought up desktop. Right now, you guys are focused on developing for Gear VR. Are you looking at other platforms? Are you considering making a desktop experience, or are you based on the success you've had at Gear VR? Are you incentivized to stay there?
I think for a small startup, it's always very important to focus and make sure you're not spreading yourself too thin. We have done prototyping on like more powerful devices, but if you go there, you have to really make sure that the game is really well adapted and feels like it was made natively for that platform. So we haven't taken that step yet. We're continuing making sure that we are one of the best developers on mobile VR.
And we have a lot of developers in our community at Shacknews, and just curious from your experience, because you've had a huge success here on your hands. What is your advice to people that are making games for mobile VR right now? What do you think, if you're looking at the market, if you're looking at your competitors, or even just games that you play, what do you think people are doing right, and what do you think people are doing wrong when it comes to making a game in VR for mobile?
Well, it's so early days, so there is a lot of different content needed, different niches to be filled. I think we need more great stuff, more things with a lot of depth to it. So I would definitely recommend somebody to focus and do their favorite game, but in a great VR take on mobile platform.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of companies that succeed, and yourself included, it's like you make something that you yourself want and you're really passionate about, and you're willing to put 20-hour days in for God knows how many months, and that's why it turns out great. So I think that's one component of it, is being passionate about your project, but at the same time it takes some luck. So it sounds like you guys are going to be staying focused on mobile for a little bit. Are you looking at other mobile platforms? Like, have you seen this? There's a couple third-party Android devices that aren't necessarily Gear VR. Are you looking at supporting more than just Gear, like with Daydream and all these other things coming out?
Yeah, I think it's great if you can support a whole lot of a range of different devices and become more cross-platform, because that's you want your game to be social, people to talk about it, and the easier it is for somebody else to download it and try it out, it's much better. There's a lot of interesting mobile initiatives. In China, there is more than 200 different manufacturers of mobile VR. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to kind of see what makes sense to focus on. You're typically looking for as big of a target audience as possible, of course.
Yeah, because like you mentioned focus earlier, and it's like as a businessman, you have to balance addressing the largest market possible while not spreading yourself thin. I think that's a huge challenge that your company and a lot of mobile devs face.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the tools available today, like Unreal Engine and Unity, is great for porting content over between different platforms. but still it requires a lot of attention to details, which is very important. I never liked when I buy a game and I can clearly see that this has been made primarily for another platform. So you really want to kind of polish all those rough edges out of your title.
So when are we going to see another game from you guys? Do you have any release dates or anything in mind?
Yeah, well, we have two teams at the office. We're 20 people now, so they're working at two projects in parallel. And the next game that's going to be released from us is the Wonderglade title.
And you guys are based in Sweden?
Yes.
So, are you a fisherman, just regular? Did you guys fish when you guys were making this game, or how were you inspired to do this?
Yeah, so I used to fish a lot when I was younger. I don't get the opportunity that often now. It was our PR guy who originally came up with the idea that, we should really do a fishing game. And I said, yeah, I would love that. And actually, I have one of my old colleagues have an adventure fishing game idea that he's been brewing on for 10 years. So Gustav, the producer, that this adventure came from him, and he's been working really hard with this for a long time.
Really cool. Well, we really appreciate your time, and I wish you luck and future success on all your products. It sounds like you guys are off to a great start.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.
Well, stay tuned to Shacknews for everything mobile VR related.